What would you do if I told you that there are a number of things you could do on guitar that would instantly get you sounding better? I would be doubtful, but I'd be intrigued. Well, doubt not, because here are some tips, tricks, and hacks that'll get you sounding better right away. So check this one out. It's so easy. I have no idea why it works, but it does. But say you're working on something and you can't quite get it. Get up from where you're practicing, move somewhere else, and then try playing it again. And for whatever reason, this just like does something in your brain, and there's a good chance you're going to be able to get it now. Next up, we got what I would consider to be probably the coolest trick that you can do with a stomp box, and it sounds absolutely amazing. You take any delay or echo pedal. I'm going to use the Source Audio Nemesis delay, and these pedals have the most basic principle. They simply repeat back what you play. And what we're going to do here is set our delay pedal so that it repeats back a dotted eighth note later, one and up. And so if I have a simple eighth note line like this, but now when I play that exact same thing with my delay pedal turned on, it's going to sound so much cooler and so much more impressive. Check it out. And here's a musical explanation for why this sounds so cool. Imagine this is the beat of the music. Ba, 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 ba. Well, I can break this beat down into 4 equal parts. What I'm playing on my guitar is these 2 notes. Ba, 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 ba. But my delay pedal is offsetting and repeating these 2 notes onto these ones. And so what I get with the delay pedal turned on is ba, 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 ba. So while I'm only playing 2 notes of the beat through the magic of my delay pedal, I'm feeling all of them, and it sounds awesome. And even though this video is about getting better instantly, if you want to gain access to a whole bunch of new chords and some beautiful new sounds, not instantly, but really quite quickly, I'd recommend checking out my new course, Elevated Open Chords. See, everybody knows the open chords, G, D, C, E minor, whatever. I'm not here to teach you that. I'm here to show you that there is so much more that you can draw out of these chords than most guitar players realize. Things like connecting them with bass lines, sliding them around the neck to create lovely, airy, suspended sounds, extending upon them, turning them into Dave Matthews chords. There is a world of possibilities here that can completely transform your rhythm guitar playing. This stuff works with acoustic or electric. If you've just learned the open chords or you've been playing them for years but haven't gone beyond just learning them, there's something here for you. And for one more day, you can get this course 50% off when you use promo code LASTCHANCE at checkout. You can find more at samuraiguitartheory.com. I've also put up some links in the description. Learning to play fast on guitar is a long, slow, arduous process, but there is one thing that I learned from my fellow YouTuber, Troy Grady, that gave me an instant speed burst. Troy has a whole channel and system on mastering the technical side of the instrument, but for me, it was this thing that he calls pick slanting that was a complete game changer I wish I learned way earlier. To understand this, first we got to look at the typical way that most of us would pick 3 notes on a string. If I'm alternating between downstrokes and upstrokes, I would go down, down, and then go to my next string and go up, down, up. And for the longest time, I was like, okay, I just got to make sure this motion is as efficient as possible. But there's a problem here. So I go down, and now I need to jump my pick over that next string in order to set myself up for that up, down, up. If I don't make that jump, then it sounds sloppy as I push my pick through the string. And that little jump over top there takes up time and slows you down. And so this tiny twist of the wrist that Troy Grady calls pick slanting solves the speed bump of having to jump over your string. Check it out. So when I'm doing 3 notes on a string, starting on a downstroke, what I do is I subtly twist my wrist so that my stroke direction is going away from the guitar. And honestly, this little tweak is like magic. So now when I go down, up, down, I don't need to jump over that next string because the direction of my stroke has already set me up to play it. And now when we go on to the next string and start with an upstroke, we slightly twist our wrist back. Up, down, up, and now we're set up to go wherever we need to go next. The general principle is simple. You're angling your wrist so that the motion of your stroke makes it so that you never have to jump over the next string, which is an inefficient motion that slows you down. Here's me playing something without taking this into account, my wrist going the same direction the entire time. There's unwanted extra noise in there, it's sloppy, it's slow. Here's that same thing with pick slanting. When you get it up to speed, it's a subtle motion, but it makes a huge difference, and I started seeing the benefits right away. If you want to learn more about this, I'd recommend checking out more from Troy Grady. Whenever I get stuck in a soloing rut, there's one trick that always knocks some inspiration into me. I pretend to be someone else. And by trying to sound like a musician I enjoy, it takes me in a new creative direction. Let's try an example here. Here's a rocky, bluesy backing track, and here's me trying to sound like one of my favorite guitar players. And here's my impression of someone else. How about one more, and bonus points if you know who I'm trying to sound like in each one of these. And even if I can't emulate someone perfectly, trying to do each one of those voices is taking me into a different place than if I just keep playing the same old stuff I always play. And if you're not quite at the point where you can mimic someone else, what I would recommend is take one of their solos, learn a lick or two from it, and then try to make them fit over whatever it is that you're playing. And after you've drawn inspiration from numerous different sources, they all mix together to make something unique to you. Quite simply, listen to your surroundings. Be aware of what your bandmates are doing. So many of us get tunnel ear where you get hyper fixated on the sounds coming out of your instrument and you don't hear anything else. But you should be just as aware of what everyone else in your band is doing. That way you can react to them, you can draw musical inspiration from them, and you can just function better as a group. Here's another hack for you. Come up with a positive musical mantra that you often repeat to yourself. Something like, dig in, go for it, you got this. And while it's great to balance out that negative voice in your head with this kind of thing, it also serves a practical purpose. One of the telltale signs of an amateur musician is someone who limps into their parts. And I get it. So you got a guitar solo coming up, and you're not sure exactly when it starts. Maybe you want to slowly sneak into it so nobody notices if you're wrong. But this is a terrible thing to do. But the beginning of your solo is the opening act. It's when you're going to have the most attention. Come in with a bang. Don't waste this moment. And leading up to your solo, if you're repeating your positive mantra in your head, you're fending off that nervous, scared voice that's going to do nothing but sabotage you. My mantra, which I've tried to drill into my psyche, I think ties this whole point together. Conviction is worth more than the occasional mistake. Here's something that's ridiculously easy to implement, and when you do it, it adds so much musicality. Leave more space. Guitar players and piano players, I find to be the two instrumentalists who overplay the most. And we do so because we don't have a physical barrier stopping us from playing note after note. If you're playing the flute, you got to take a breath every now and then. Whereas pianists and guitarists can just rip on for days, which many of us end up doing. So next time you're with your guitar, I got a little experiment for you to try. Grab your phone and record yourself playing a solo as you normally would do so. Then repeat this, but this time leave a lot of space. And I'm talking about like an uncomfortably large amount of musical silence. And every time I've done this with someone, they're surprised at how good the second take actually sounds and how what felt like too much silence in the moment actually sounds really musical when listening back. Here's a great guitar pedal tip that the sound man once told me. You download a decibel reader on your phone, place it somewhere by your amp, and then play a G chord with your simple clean tone. Take note of the decibel reading and then go through every pedal that you're going to be turning on and off and try to match the volume. So my distortion, for example. Whoa, that is a fair bit louder, so we're going to want to turn that down. And look at that. Just about the same. And of course, if certain effects are meant to be louder or quieter, you take that into account. But what this does is it creates a balanced, level playing field so that no matter what effect you turn on, you're playing your guitar the same way. The last thing you want is to hit a distortion, it's way too loud, and you have to play timidly and quiet. Things like this can really throw you off. Every instructor I've ever had has recommended that every now and then you practice singing along as you solo. And if you're a better guitar player than a singer, like so many of us are, it might not sound amazing, and you might not be Pavarottiing that sucker right out of the gates, but it's not a performance-based thing, but rather an exercise. First of all, it gets you out of thinking with your fingers, which naturally gravitate towards shapes and patterns, but rather you're making musical choices based on what you hear in your head. When you do this, it's a much truer artistic representation of you. You end up creating interesting and unique things. And if you've never done this before, you might find that your voice is just following along with your guitar, but the more you do it, the more those two things merge, which is the ultimate goal. An added benefit is it forces you to leave space, see one of our previous points, because you have to stop playing when you have to take a breath. This gives your solo a lyrical, language-esque quality to it, which Which brings me to my next point. Imagine that your solo is a story that you're telling. See, a lot of the things that we use in language can directly apply to music as well. At the beginning of a good story, you're hooked in, and you can do this in a solo by playing a fast, flashy lick, something especially catchy, but the point is you want to capture the audience's attention. In the middle section, now you have some time for character or musical motif development. You can draw things out a little bit and take some interesting twists or turns, but here you're expanding on your story. And in the end, there's some sort of conclusion. This could come in the form of a big musical climax, something fast, some high notes, or maybe it's referring back to that original idea, concluding that, or maybe it's a cliffhanger setting up the next part of the song. And by thinking like this, your solo is going to be coherent, it's going to have purpose, it's going to have flow, it's going to be rewarding for a listener. It's not something you'll necessarily master right away, and the long-term goal is that this becomes intuitive, but just by thinking of it, you're going to see some results pretty quick. And we're really just skimming the surface of musical storytelling. There is a lot to talk about here, which is why I made a whole course on this called The Craft of Soloing. And why not, if you want to pick that up, use promo code LASTCHANCE on that one too to save 50% off today. And last for today, pay attention to your breathing. For me, I make the best music when I'm cool, calm, and relaxed, and breathing is a big part of that. I'm always trying to maintain my normal everyday breathing when I'm playing, even if that goes against my natural instincts. Sometimes, if I have an especially tough section, I find myself holding my breath, and if I'm aware of this, I can calm myself down and go back to normal breathing. Or in a different sense, if I find myself dealing with nerves, I might try to take some big, deep breaths to calm myself down. And just by thinking about this, catching myself when I'm veering off course, making sure my breath is going deep down into my diaphragm, not up here, it gets me in the headspace that I like to be in when I'm playing music. And ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Those are some guitar tricks, tips, and hacks that are going to get you sounding better instantly. And remember, the launch sale for my new course, Elevated Open Chords, is about to come to an end. For one more day, you can get that course half off with promo code LASTCHANCE. So get that while the getting's good. Links in the description, or you can find more at samuraiguitartheory.com. Thank you all for watching. Until next time, look after yourselves, look after each other, look after the planet. I'm Samurai Guitarist, and I'll see you again soon.